Welcome back to the channel. Today we are fixing the canister purge valve, also known as the canister vent valve, on a 2017 Toyota Highlander. However, this procedure is similar on other models. I had a Subaru Forester and it was a different location, but pretty much the same procedure. Common symptoms of this include an all-wheel drive light in the Highlander. You'll have a number of engine lights, including the one shown here. And if you clear those engine lights, they'll come back on around a quarter tank of gas. And then when you fill the car with a full tank of gas, it won't start up and it'll kind of stall out. And you have to give the car a minute or two of sitting after filling up a full tank before it will start again. So if you're experiencing those issues, this is probably the problem you have. The first thing I'm doing here is clearing the engine codes with my OBDII scanner. If you don't have one of these, don't worry, the code will go away on its own after you make this repair. After you pop the hood of the car, the valve is located here next to the engine cover on the Toyota Highlander, and while the valve might look the same for different makes and models, it could be located anywhere else on the car if you're working on a different make or model. Now, as a quick warning, the engine might still be hot, especially if you just parked the car, so be careful, you don't want to burn yourself on anything. The part number from AutoZone for a new one is PV861, and at the time of filming, this was about a $90 part. You can find coupons online that might make it a little bit cheaper, but that's generally what this one goes for. This is a very simple repair. We're just unbolting this old part, we're taking off the hoses and the connector, we're putting the new one in the same place, and then we're just reconnecting it in the same manner. Start by pulling the engine cover straight up to remove it. It should come off with very little effort. If it takes a lot of force, you're probably going to break something, so check the angle you're pulling at and make sure it's not caught on anything. The old valve is held in place by one Phillips head screw in the back, connecting it to this bracket. I initially tried to remove it with a screwdriver here, but because this car has relatively high miles for this year, this one's really caked on, so it actually broke my screwdriver because I have an old crappy screwdriver. That's not really typical, that's more just how bad my screwdriver is. You should be able to undo this by hand with a little bit of effort. I switched over to the power tools simply because I couldn't find my backup screwdriver, so again, you don't need this. A hand tool is totally fine here, but we're just taking out that one screw, and make sure you don't drop it or lose it in the engine bay. To remove this end connector here, simply clamp it down with your fingers and then just wiggle it off. It might be a little bit caked on there. And to remove this hose, grab the little tabs on that clamp like I'm doing here with the pair of pliers. Once you do that, it expands the clamp. You can slide it farther down the hose. You want to go a few inches down. Now over time, this hose is going to stick to everything. So it's going to stick to both the hose clamp and it's going to stick to the valve inside of the clamp. So to separate them, you just have to twist one relative to the other. So you see me twisting the hose clamp a little bit just before I can move it down. And then we need to twist the valve relative to the hose to get the valve out. In order to give it more range of motion, I unplug the hose on the bottom first. That one pulls right out. That doesn't have a clamp on it from the factory. Now replace it with the new part. It's pretty much the same steps in reverse. You just slide the two hoses into place, put the clamp back on, plug the black connector back in, and then put the screw back through the bracket and into the side of the new valve. Now, even if you remove the screw with a power tool, I recommend putting it back in with a hand screwdriver like you're seeing me do here. Otherwise, if it's not lined up properly, you're going to make things a lot worse for yourself very quickly, which I have done in the past on other projects. Now, with everything reconnected and back in place, we're ready to put the engine cover back on. Just like when we took it off, you don't want to use too much force. If it doesn't go on easily, it means it's not lined up correctly. You can see here I'm doing a light bump with my hand. That's all it requires. Anything more than that, you might break it. With it clipped into place, take the old valve. It now has no value to you. It doesn't work. There's no core charge on this. There's no way to return it or really recycle it. And as such, there's no value in keeping it. So you can just throw it out and get rid of it. Finally, start up the car. Make sure it's running smoothly and sounds correct. And if so, you're ready to go. The repair is now complete and you can enjoy your car. So that completes this installation. Thank you guys for watching and I will see you next time.